Previously
On
Phantom,
Oregon.
we
Left
George
dangling
from
Grand
Canyon
on
top
of
the
Harrison.
gorge.
Meanwhile,
Brandon
just
learned
his
real
name.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Muprov Musings. This is episode 89. I'm one of your hosts, Hal Munger, and joining me now on the line is your bi-weekly host, Julian Bernardo.
You never really know what biweekly means. And in fact, in the dictionary, it says that it can be both twice in a week or every other week. So I like to use that just to confuse people.
Wow. I had no idea that it could be twice in a week.
Yeah. But that's not what I am. I'm the other kind of host. And this weekly cadence, this gets me thinking about a lot of relevant concepts for what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, today's topic is serialized improv. We're going to dive into how we're going to approach this this next run and the stuff we've been thinking about. And we're also going to catch up a little because, Julian, I've heard you're doing some cool rival podcastery.
Yeah, it's unclear. I probably shouldn't give too many of the specific details, but what I can say is that I'm part of this new sort of tabletop RPG thing that's happening that might turn into something more real. It's like a homebrew on the Fates system that is being run out here. And yeah, we might end up doing some sort of live tabletop RPG sessions out here in the Bay.
You can take the boy out of the podcast, but you can't take the podcast out of the boy. Well, I'm excited that you're going to be able to be generating more audio content in your time zone.
Oh yeah.
So that's wonderful news.
And when they start, we're also going to be recording them and putting them up, and I think even live streaming them. So once it takes a more real and official shape, I will definitely be pubbing it hard.
But it's that is a nice segue kind of into what we're talking about, because I feel like D&D is probably the closest thing out there to serialized improv besides serialized improv.
Whenever I tell people I have an improv podcast, it is typically followed up by like, oh, I've like watched like a D&D podcast or something like that. And up till now, we haven't been doing really that. But this is going to take a little bit of a different form as we do this serialized improv, because in normal seasons, we've been talking through the whole format and doing a couple at the end. But for this one, we're going to be interweaving our actual serialized improv narrative within our discussions of it.
Yeah. So I think that it will take some elements from D&D. Obviously, we're not going to be rolling or whatever. But if you've listened to the improv that we've done on the show, it's increasingly become about visual descriptions and that kind of D&D like storytelling. And I think that we're going to keep that. And one of the issues that comes up with serialized improv is like, if you do a bad job at the beginning or at any point, you're screwed for the whole time. But I think that D&D has a lot of guardrails that sort of save you from some of those things, maybe is one way of saying that. You have the DM who's doing a lot of preparation before the episodes and can kind of veto certain of people's worst instincts. It'll be interesting to see what guardrails we build in for ourselves. But before we get into that, I have learned a new improvising technique. And Julian, I want to play a game of guess that technique. I'll give you the information. This is a very simple technique in that it's something that you could explain in 10 seconds, or really you can explain it in 2 seconds. You can explain it in one word. It's something that you do physically. I think that if I gave you no more context than that, you would be able to guess it within like 7,000 guesses or less.
And this is a technique to a general purpose improv technique that you could deploy. Could I deploy it later in my improvised slasher show that I'm going to do?
You could totally deploy it later in your improvised slasher show. Yes.
Okay. If it can be explained in one word, I'm going to start with breathe.
You're really close. If obviously that has cut me saying you're close has cut down your thing from 7,000 to like 10. You could probably guess it
Yeah.
within two guesses even.
Um, not one word, but don't blink.
No.
Uh,
You're way farther away with Don't Blink than you were with Breathe.
smell the stage.
Breathe was incredibly close. Smell the Stage is pretty good. You're allowed to whittle it down with questions.
Okay. Does this work just as well in a 2-person scene as it does in like a 4-person scene?
Yep.
Does it work in a 1-person scene?
Does it work in a 1-person scene? Yeah. It actually works great there. We were engaging with it in that context.
I'm gonna say sigh.
It's not sigh.
Mm,
If you want another clue, I can give you another clue.
yeah, give me another clue.
It's similar in some ways to Demon Slayer radiation that we talked about last week, in that you can do it the entire time that you're improvising.
Do it the entire time that you're improvising. Huh.
But originally, I would have still thought it would take you like 7,000 to 15,000 guesses, and when you guessed it, you would have been like, "What?"
Yeah. Like fart on stage?
No, you were really close with breathe.
Breathe. Like drink water.
No,
Mm.
you can't drink water during all the time during all your scenes.
Okay.
I guess it's more of a compound word if I said one word.
Yeah. Okay.
Really, it's 2 words.
Yeah. Lock in. No.
No, it's like an actual technique. It's something that you're actually doing.
Yeah. Spread legs, like wide stance.
No, you can do it in literally all of your scenes.
Literally all of your scenes. Lips out.
Not lips out.
Uh,
I wonder if this is engaging content for the people listening, whether they're guessing along at if you've already guessed it. If you guess it before Julian and you're listening in live time, you get a big point.
You get a big
and you can email in Muprov Musings and we'll award you an official big point.
Yes. Close your eyes.
It's not close your eyes. That is not something you should do in every scene.
What can you ever do? Like
I'm doing it right now, if that helps.
Like, I don't know, relax shoulders.
Not relax shoulders. It's very similar to breathe.
Very similar to breathe. Blow.
Not blow, but it's very similar to blow. It's extremely similar to blow.
It's very similar to blow. It's show your teeth. Open your mouth.
It's not show your teeth. It's open your mouth is very close. Open your mouth, below, breathe are the 3 that you've had that are really close to it.
So it's got to be something about your lungs, or you're opening your mouth, or something about the air. Can I get another hint?
You are breathing, you're opening your mouth, and you're almost blowing. You're not actually blowing, but you are breathing and opening your mouth while you're doing it. You should be able to get it now. You should be able to get it in one guess. Your next guess should be it.
I'm just trying to actually do it and then discover what it is.
I'm doing it right now. Look at me.
Mouth breathe.
Yeah, mouth breathe.
Oh, really?
Isn't that weird? I got it from Imbal. It was like a whole, again, it was a giant, long workshop, like multiple day workshop that was all about breathing through your mouth.
Huh.
And it was awesome. It was having a transformative effect on how people were playing. I heard it. I was like, what the hell?
What's the difference and what's the theory?
What's the difference? What's the theory? That's a great question. Some of the theories I think is just that it's similar to mindfulness, maybe is one way of saying that, of like, it's not how you necessarily normally breathe. So you can catch, it's this crazy thing. Like the second the person goes into their head and starts thinking, what am I going to say or whatever, they close their mouth and we can see it. And Imbal could just be like, breathe through your mouth and it would fix. So I don't know if everyone was a mouth breather already. I don't know if the impact would be as noticeable. But the other thing that it was doing was it was punctuating speech and it was having more breath out at the end of a line and taking that time. And it also, I felt like, heightened the emotion. If you're trying to do emotionally resonant acting, it made the emotion more noticeable. It made the speech feel more naturalistic. And it really relaxes the jaw, which does everything else. I don't know if it's like terrible. Like, I know you're not supposed to breathe through your mouth all the time, that like you breathe through your mouth at night or whatever. That's very bad for your brain. Drying out my mouth. Had to be drinking a lot of water when we were mouth breathing all weekend. But I'm tempted to try to start mouth breathing in all of my improv right now. Like, it was enough of a difference when I was watching the people who were doing it versus the people who were failing to do it or whatever, that I was like, damn, maybe I should be a mouth breather all the time now. So if you want to bring this into your practice, you could.
Let's note this down, and I'll commit to it. I will mouth breathe for the entirety of the show I'm doing later. And
okay. See if you can remember, because I think that the hard part about it is remembering to do it. And the crazy thing is also, I can now cry on command.
Oh.
I found this out by accident. She just had us roll on the ground and you had to breathe in like this with your mouth wide open, like, and then you breathe out, blow. And if I do that while lying on my back, which again is not useful for acting or whatever, just I start crying really hard, just tons of tears come out. And it's every time I've done it, that's happened. And even when I've done it here or at home, I did it this morning. I was doing a bit with Sasha where we were waking up and I didn't want to wake up. And I did the breathing a little bit. And all of a sudden I was crying and I was like, Sasha, I don't want to wake up. Try both of those.
I will try them. Thank you for these techniques.
Okay, but back to the bulk of the show. Serialized improv, should people do it?
I mean, yeah, like my initial thing that makes me really interested in it is I would say that when I try to describe the type of improv that I like to do to people I don't know who are improvisers, I definitely focus on I like narrative focused stuff and I like character arcs. I like all of that. But my whole context for doing this is with at max 1.5 hours to build up these characters. And I'm very interested to see, is there a greater ask narratively for serialized improv? And like, what is our new kind of frontier that we can do?
Yeah. So the pros and cons, in theory, if it started well, it should be easier than normal improv, I would think, because you go into each episode with characters that already exist. You don't have to define everything. But the starting it sounds really hard. And if it starts poorly, it's just like, what's the point of what you're doing? So I almost feel like approaching it kind of like a super scene of like just doing a pilot until you got a pilot you really liked.
Yeah. And the like immediate question that I think is just like an easy question is like, what happens in between different serial improvised sets? And maybe I'll bring up the idea and then maybe we should talk through some of the examples that we've like heard of or seen. But like the big question is like, do you try to convene and like make any calls or hits in between serialized improvised shows, or do we just jump straight into it and have no sort of prep in the middle?
That's the DM question, right? I think both of us thought that at least for the first episode, it would be good to do a little bit of prep. I think most of it still improvised, but a little bit of world building prep and sort of an agreement, similar to what we would do before doing a narrative show, where we were just like, are we doing a slasher or are we doing a Disney Channel original movie? Like the type of format that you do impacts the tone a lot, and that you want to at least be doing something that both of us are going to have fun with. We're going to be doing it for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're pitching our pilots and we're seeing which one gets picked up, but we're just also the producers.
So that's a cool. And then have you seen serialized improv anywhere? Like, have you actually seen serialized improv?
I haven't watched it. I've only talked to one person about it, which is Dave Dennison, who's one of the bats who did it out here, like I don't know, a couple of years ago or something. They were doing a Walking Dead serialized improv,
That's
and it
awesome.
was, I guess, with that one there was a particular part of the format was around like people might die between or during shows, and then they won't show up in the later ones. And I think they specifically had it as like a 6 episode arc or something. So yeah, just 6 episodes for the entirety of the story.
Cool. I feel like the classic Netflix thing is 8 episodes.
Yeah, that is.
That's how they sell those blocks. Um, I really haven't. There was always this legend when we were in Simps together performing that there had been something called Simps TV like 2 years before
Yeah.
we had joined, where they did it for a whole summer. Every week they met and did serialized improv, which sounded pretty fun. And then I've heard that there's a show in the UK somewhere that has been running for like 10 to 15 years that every week has been telling the same story, which is crazy. And the UK also has this 48-hour improv marathon thing that tells one serialized story. But I went to see 1 2 hour block in that. And my advice would be to go near the beginning. Cause I went like near the end, and it was like everyone was really delirious. And it was kind of delightful to see these really sleepy improvisers improvising. But the story had devolved to the point at that point where I had no idea what was going on. I was like, what? They did a recap or whatever. But either you have people who have been awake for, 40 something hours and are totally delirious, or you have someone who just, anytime that a character has to leave, they do a Time Lord style regeneration into new improviser. And they try to quickly tell them what's going on, But it seems like there's a lot of stuff going on. But it is a kind of one of the crazier improv feats that I think an improviser can do. Probably is the London 48-hour improv-a-thon.
Well, here's a like characteristic of serialized improv that I'm interested to talk about, which is when you think about shows that have been going on for a while, right? There are like long run drama shows or whatever that are 6 seasons, and each season is an arc and blah 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 blah. There's maybe a whole over show arc that's happening, and eventually we've cleared through all of it and we told the story. And then you have some of these like kind of perpetual shows like Grey's Anatomy or a lot of soap operas, that kind of thing, where like they literally just like don't want to end the show. And so the idea is like we're always going to return to that hospital, and always something interesting is going to be happening at that hospital. And maybe there are arcs throughout this that happen to the characters, but it's never culminating in a grand end arc. How are you thinking about the difference between these things?
So I really think it depends on what you're doing. If I was doing a live serialized improv show, I would want to do the first thing that you're saying, because I can probably, my guess is, jump into a sitcom style show on any episode and it'll sort of make sense. Like if we're doing improvised Seinfeld. Because we're doing a digital show, I think it makes a lot more sense to do some sort of arc. And that's what draws me to this kind of stuff anyway. I mean, it is interesting to perform in a show where you get to play the same character again and again. That's a totally different style of interesting. But what's interesting to me is the idea of telling a longer narrative and playing at a slower pace. And this idea that similarly to I think we can extract some of the patterns that happen when you make the time frame longer. And I assume that those patterns will continue. Like one of them is this idea of platform. Like that, at the beginning of the show, you want to be a little more boring and a little more about fleshing out the characters. My guess is that the first episode of a serialized thing, like the first hour, you might want to make a little more like, this is the normal world, we're fleshing out the characters, and maybe the sort of call to adventure is happening near the end. Or maybe it starts with some crazy action-packed sequence, which could be fun to try as well.
And that's kind of like standard fare, I feel like, for TV shows nowadays, is that only by the end of the pilot do you really get a sense of what the show is about. And so I am just interested in zooming out all of these improv narrative stuff that we have to the macro level. The one that I'm really interested in, maybe in particular because of the type of TV shows that I like, because I like a lot of like long run sort of character study dramas, is the idea of characters and arcs and changing characters over time.
Mhm.
Because sometimes in these hour to maybe hour and a half shows that we've done, sometimes you can really lock in and it's like, oh wow, that really felt like that character changed in that time, and it was amazing performance and we really understood that. But I think that sometimes it can just feel a bit rushed to have a character be like, oh, okay, change of heart at the end of the story. And so I'm really interested in the idea of getting characters into arcs where for multiple episodes they are really down bad and there's no resolution for them, and then only after some time do they change.
I would be very interested in doing something where like there are certain shows out there where there are so many characters that they kind of get introduced at different times.
Mhm.
Or like, even like BoJack is one of my favorite shows. There's like one episode that really focuses on Princess Carolyn, and having certain episodes like that where it's like, boom, we really focus on this character who hasn't been fleshed out yet, and we get the world from their perspective, and it's a very different style of episode than the episodes we previously had.
I think that serialized media, like TV shows, for example, as opposed to movies, like have a lot of space for improv. I'm super obsessed with Breaking Bad as a concept, and in Breaking Bad, the what I would consider Deuteragonist by the end, Jesse, is he was initially intended to be killed off within the first season, but they had him in a few episodes and they're still writing in. They were like, actually, we really love this guy. And so I really like the idea of we can introduce a character in the third episode that, oh, wait, we actually really just want to see more of this character, and this character is going to become a big part of the show.
Dude, the octopus guy in Hunter x Hunter, this is very niche. But I feel
Oh,
like
dude,
that
that
guy is
guy.
such a character, that person. It's like a super minor villain who just somehow keeps on becoming more and more and more relevant to the plot. And you're like, this guy is still around, but he's
Yeah.
one of my favorite characters from the whole show. So I forget his
So it sounds
name.
like we love serialized stories, and there's a lot of parts of it that I think we're both excited to try to like integrate into here.
Mhm.
Um, Anything else we want to say on like serialized stories in general before we start thinking more about our improv?
Um, yeah, I've no. I think let's jump in to the improv side of things and how to improvise a serialized story.
Yeah.
Um,
So I feel like you've been doing a little bit more thinking on the how to do it. So maybe if you can start off and we'll just sort of jump around between the different obvious improv quirks that'll come out.
yeah, so I first had this idea to do it on the podcast when I was watching Arcane. I was like, this is like so tropey that that's really good for improvising. And I was
Right.
like, damn, this is really cool. And I had it again recently. I was watching Stranger Things for the first time, and I was like, oh, like this feels both great, but also like there are certain things that the showrunners are doing every single time. And one of
Mhm.
them that was really striking me was this idea of like jump cuts, but specifically
Mhm.
cuts between one relevant, like a bell ringing in one scene and a bell ringing in another. Like, someone
Yeah.
lights a candle and suddenly it's like over they're setting one of those demi dogs on fire. Is that,
Right.
um, and I feel like that is pretty easy to do in improv.
Mhm.
Um, and it would be really fun. And I've never been in a show where it was a narrative show where you were doing those kind of cinematic jumps.
Yeah.
Uh, I feel like audio specifically allows for that, but usually you just don't have that many like different plot lines going at once. Maybe is one way of saying that.
Yeah. How are you thinking about the arc of the story versus the arc of the episode, and like what are the hallmarks of like what makes episode end satisfying? Like I know that this is a conversation that honestly has followed streaming, as like streaming has gotten really big, is I feel like moving away from episodes that feel complete, and like stream like some Netflix 8 episode series do feel like just an 8 hour movie that you're kind of going through, and maybe there's a cliffhanger at the end of the episode, but It doesn't always feel like a full story happened versus more, old school TV. I think has more of a obligation to tell a complete story over the course of one episode. So how are you thinking about that?
I was thinking way more in the Netflix style.
Yeah.
Of I want each of our episodes to end in some sort of like pick the highest point, and even if we improvise past it, like we can choose where we cut our episode, right? If we improvise longer and then we're like, wait, we should have cut it at this cliffhanger moment.
Yeah.
I totally totally that's where my brain is. And just building something up that's really, I want things that are suspenseful and intense. And I feel like, yeah, like Pickle Combo for me of the shows we've done was the one that got a scene like that. But I think it would be fun if we started like right off the bat, or some sort of car chase or something like that.
Yeah.
And just cinematic descriptions and intensity of, fleshing out big characters, but who might be like, we can even just say it starts with a car chase, and we'll figure out the rest. We'll figure out the rest of the show from there.
I like that. And yeah, I think that the like cliffhanger suspense like feels like something big is unraveling. Like I do like that when I watch it. And I guess that kind of gives us a prompt for doing in this actual serialized improv is towards the end of episodes, thinking about like what can be big, like title drop moments.
Yeah, and I think that thinking a little bit about arcs and threads is okay. So I think that what kind of makes that thing is that usually there are lots of different characters who are on different arcs. So someone's arc is having a oh my god, what's going to happen next moment, while the other one's doing its sort of recharge.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's okay for us to plan a little bit. No, not a lot. And I think that we should verbally tell the audience what we're planning, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think that we should have any secret off the podcast planning sessions. But I think it's okay to be like, oh, this character is villainous and probably they're arcing towards being good, and both being on the same page about that.
Yeah. And how are you also thinking about like, I think in the way that we've been talking about it so far, it feels pretty like ensemble. And so do you think that it would be good to like just write off the concept of a protagonist? We're not going to have a protagonist, or leave ourselves open to, like maybe it's clear based on the setup of this world that there is this chosen character and things should revolve around them, even if we do jump to other characters. Like one example that I'll throw in about this, since you sort of brought it up, I think before we started, is Game of Thrones is one where kind of nominally Jon Snow is the protagonist of Game of Thrones, but there are definitely episodes, like many episodes, where you don't see Jon Snow at all. And he's the protagonist insofar as the grand, overarching story is about him, or he's integral to that. But at the episode level, it's not. So with all that in mind.
Yeah. So I haven't watched Game of Thrones. I've read the first couple of books of Game of Thrones. And for that, to me, it always just seemed like the Stark family was the protagonist. And then the sort of B plots were like the Peter Dinklage guy. I don't remember his name, like Tybalt or something.
Tyrion.
There were a couple other places, but usually there was one Stark wherever, action was happening. And I feel like similarly with the Stranger Things, like we were talking about, like that friend group of 4 boys, I feel like they, in theory, are nominally the main characters, even though the little one who's always getting Will is not on as much as the other ones. There are lots of characters who are on more. And then there's a sort of expanded friend group of where it's still the kids, but then there's also like the older teen trio or whatever, and like that's their own separate thing. And then there's the Hop and God, I'm bad with names.
And Will's mom, yeah,
and there are those kind of things. But what really strikes me among all these shows, and Arcane does this really well too, is that those are the nominal groups, but then they start getting scrambled. and I find that really fun. So you'll totally have this season where Dustin is off with Steve and they're doing their own like side adventure. Well, I don't know, whoever is off with whoever. But they get pretty they pair around in Arcane so in theory there are two sisters who like are the central pole of Arcane, but there's a sort of underworld of lower class criminals and an upper world of like upper class bad people, but who are also, some of them are good, some of them are bad, and they start kind of separate, but there's a kind of they start to mingle in this cool way where like one of the people who was previously introduced as dating one of the guys who is an important character in the upper world ends up dating one of the women from the lower sort of criminal, and she's a police officer and she's a criminal, and they're like doing their thing, and one of the sisters gets really involved with all the villains and is just always in that sort of villain arc, but then some of the scientists get together, but then the scientist infects the politician, and like people keep on scrambling. That's what I'm into.
Yeah.
I
mean, what you've just described, and honestly, I see that in stuff like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. There's the domestic world, which is like Walt and his family. Then there's like the criminal world that like Walt is commingling with, and then kind of separate, there's like specifically like the cartel and all of that's going on. And that has the same way you described, just resonated that like, oh, that's doing that as well. If we introduce these separate groups and we kind of grow them individually a bit until they feel like they can stand on their own, and then we start throwing them together.
And it almost feels to me, now that you're saying it, like a Shakespeare show.
Yeah, right.
Where you said all these separate things, then the fun zone is like, what happens if you collide these different worlds? So
yeah.
The difference between it and a Shakespeare show is that I'm picturing like 16 characters, which might,
right.
that might be like crazy. But instead of having like, that one couple who's visiting Italy in a carriage, maybe it's like, that whole family who's coming there, and each of those people has different romance plots. But I think the other thing is, like romance, comic relief, action, and exchanging those three threads back and forth. I'm just spitballing here, but I think that having some characters who are romantic, and that's a great way to cross worlds. I think romance is a really fun way to cross worlds.
Totally. And it's interesting the thing about ascribing tones to groups as well, because I mean, the domestic in Breaking Bad often is like used to be like a lighthearted, like, oh, like Walt just did something absolutely terrible, but the like family is really arguing about oatmeal right now. And so that's kind of a funny thing. And so it's interesting to think about ascribing tones to these groups, and then in the same fashion, mix matching tones where the family now deals with something very serious and the criminal world is doing something kind of funny. Like, that's, I like that too.
Yeah, I'm super psyched. I also think it would be fun to do a mystery. I'm just putting that out there, like some sort of to have some sort of thing be unraveling, where we start out just by putting out, like bodies and clues and that kind of, or maybe a mystery thriller. I think it would be fun if some people were getting killed throughout the course of the show, and it wasn't necessarily clear what was going on.
Yeah. I like that in the way that we're going to do it with us too, in the way that I think it often feels pretty bad to like kill a character in an improv show when it's an hour show with like 6 people where people are pretty entrenched in their characters. But with the amount of jumping around we're going to do, like, I think it'll feel a little bit more Game of Thrones, where probably anything can happen to anybody, and nobody's going to be mad if this character dies, or we might be a little bit, but it's not counting that character out of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're playing all the characters. Hunter x Hunter is so good at establishing like a vivid character and killing them like 2 seasons later. And I guess maybe this gets into the pitching of what show we want to do. So one of the options is to simply follow one of these existing shows that we're saying, of being like,
Right.
let's do it in the same genre as the show and try to imitate a lot
Mhm.
of things. And Julie and I would go watch it as homework. Is there any show that you really would be psyched about in that way?
Not particularly. I mean, you keep talking about Arcane, and I'm kind of compelled because a lot of people like Arcane to think about if it could be like that. Like, I guess I would want to put forth like maybe here's one more fantastical option and here's one more grounded option because I think that those stories generally just have a little bit of a different tone. Um, so like yeah, for a fantastical option, I think Arcane sounds great, and for a grounded option, uh, I don't think I don't think like actually something like Breaking Bad is exactly what we want to do. I think we want it a bit wider. So I would put forth something like Succession, which is yeah, a drama, corporate intrigue, but there's like a bunch of characters, and like if you're not really paying attention, it's like who is this guy? What is his position in the company?
Mm-hmm.
But it's with that one, the story centers around the Roy family. This is like the family of the like people who run the company, and like they're like doing their like succession game or whatever, and they all go off and they have their own tones. Each character is there's like a funnier one, there's like a more serious one, there's one who's like in politics, that kind of thing. So that would be my fantastical and then grounded pitches.
Okay, I haven't seen Succession, so I could watch the first. I could definitely watch the pilot before we started. If
I
we
could
did
also
that,
I can watch the pilot of Arcane.
yeah. Uh, Arcane takes place in the world of League of Legends. I don't know if you know that.
I That's why I haven't watched it.
That's
Literally.
why. I mean, again, I wouldn't say Arcane is like a quote unquote good show. I think what
Mhm.
was exciting me was how improvisable it felt. Maybe is one way
Mm.
of saying
Yeah.
that. And still, there were a lot of like, and even though it was tropey, I was still excited about things from it.
Mhm.
The other thing that Arcane does that is unusual in terms of how it does its pilot is it has maybe like a 2 episode pilot arc following the main characters as kids,
Mm.
basically showing you where they get their trauma, and
Uh,
then the actual show starts like, and all the characters are a lot older than that, uh,
huh.
and they're all traumatized.
Okay.
Um, so there's something that happens kind of early on where you're like, oh, kid, 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 and then whoa, and then they're all
Yeah.
traumatized for the rest of the show.
Interesting.
Um, so that's a fun little Arcane. But I'm still, I mean, I don't know if we should waste it on this, but I'm still thinking a lot about animals. I'm making a ton of animal
Yeah.
masks, and I'm thinking a lot about this sort of animal-y noir thing. I've been thinking about it ever since I saw a show called Forgive Us, Gustavito, which was an
Mm.
animal-based noir with 3 actors playing all the characters. And I watched that show. I was like, I want to be doing this in improvised. So fun.
I
Uh,
mean, it really is it's a whole thing. It's a whole genre. I mean, Zootopia, Beastars. It can cover the range of tones.
BoJack.
BoJack, and what I like about Animal Base is it's just a nice common hand where you can just say an animal and we already have like a really strong physical idea of what this character looks like, and it provides chance for both like concordance and discordance with the kind of animal they are and their personality.
You also don't need names. You can just be
Yeah.
like rabbit, hippo, like tiger, which I personally really like as an improviser
Yeah.
to not need names. I think it would be very fun. Again, I would want the animals to be Zootopia style animals that are doing human things, or even BoJack style animals that are really human.
Yeah.
But I think that it would be fun to be in a world that was a animal world where they have access to human stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm into that as a pitch because it fills out a lot without actually constraining us in much of a
Yeah.
way at all.
Okay. So then we still haven't decided whether we want it to feel like a magically animal world like
Yeah.
Arcane, or whether we want it to feel like a Succession animal world. I think it would be fun if it was a Stranger Things level of magic,
Hmm.
which is that it's
Yeah.
animals in their normal life, but there is some sort of disturbance.
Right. The world is normal-ish, but something is happening that is not.
Mm-hmm. Like, I'm
Yeah.
trying to think. There is one set of characters in Stranger Things who's actually like on the crazy vibe, and that's Eleven and her whole deal.
Yeah.
But pretty much everyone else would just be like, "This is crazy."
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I think that I like that as if we wanted to specify that.
okay.
And two, like it is always a nice thing when there's some sort of magic or tech system or something that like this is a well that we can go to get ourselves out of situations or to put ourselves in situations.
Mm-hmm. Is
I do think like I'm wondering how much because we talk about like doing narrative and improv. Definitely, like you're thinking about some stuff that a writer might be thinking about. I mean, I've thought a little bit about this with like Hero's Journey, for example. But I wonder how much like if we should bone up on even more writery bones for this kind of thing, since it's over a longer period. And as I bring it up, also like how much we're thinking about something like Hero's Journey of stages to a character. That's more specific than what we would do, certainly, but how much we want to also prescribe any sort of like meta level plot of we know for the first 5 episodes we're ramping up, for the next 5 episodes we're in the thick of it, and next 5 are big confrontation season ender.
yeah, again, I think it would be fun to start action packed and then ramp down, and
Yeah.
I think it would be really fun to do a lot of like scenes that involve like a central character in and throwaway characters as well. Like really like flesh out Hippo hard and meet all the people in Hippo's lives and all the other hippos or whatever. And then none of those people are necessarily we get to the end of the episode and it's just like Hippo's life sucks, maybe is the thesis of the first episode or whatever. And just everything, and then it ends and we don't really know where it's going, but maybe the next episode starts with Tiger,
Right.
And you're like, whoa, we're in a totally different place. And by the end of the Tiger episode, it's clear how Tiger and Hippo are going to interact. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
That level of detail, but with more characters. So maybe the first episode is mostly centering around Hippo, but it also is cutting to Rabbit or whatever. And
I do in this techniques that we're thinking about. I do like A plot, B plot, C plot as a way to think about at the episode level. Like we're going to focus mainly on this. We're going to mainly cut to this, and then we might have a C plot runner throughout it. That is, why is that bird continuously playing dominoes?
And I think that one thing that I like about often it's A plot, B plot, C plot, villain, which is kind of D plot, right? For a lot of these shows. And then deepen. So if A plot is Hippo, whoever Hippo's friends are start to be like, whoa, this throwaway character. Now suddenly what happens if we follow them for a whole episode? You thought they were a throwaway. And that's so easy to improvise because you take an actual throwaway character and then just add some sort of, maybe they're hanging out with the villains or whatever. And you're like, what?
Right.
That character that we all forgot from the first episode, Mantis, was actually... Oh, Kung Fu Panda is another one. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Last year I watched Kung Fu Panda. I had already seen it, but I rewatched Kung Fu Panda, and I started crying, like maybe when they said, "Oh, you're going to be a Kung Fu warrior" or whatever, and I cried for about an hour straight. I don't know why. I don't think I've ever cried more at any movie. And I also ate a whole loaf of bread while I was watching it.
No, I love Kung Fu Panda. And that's another example of the genre, or the animal based isn't even really a genre because that's a Kung Fu movie.
Yeah. Well, then what genre do you, again, I think it would be fun if some people were being killed and it was suspenseful. It's similar to Stranger Things. Not that many people being killed, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess I'm kind of liking, honestly, Stranger Things as a genre, of like a mystery that's unfolding, basically. And over the course of it, we're figuring out even maybe what the mystery is about, or like how big the mystery goes, but that we're following a set of characters who are who have different vantage points on this mystery and different reasons to care about the mystery, and it brings the disjointed parts together, possibly.
Okay. Let's think of some
Because you
other
would,
mood board tapestries as well, though, to put in.
yeah, yeah. Let's think.
Because I don't
So,
really
like,
want to
yeah,
do like 70s nerdy kids.
right,
I want to do like Stranger Things, maybe tone is maybe one,
yeah,
like an age rating. Like, I feel like
right.
that's right around the. Weirdly, I feel like Incredibles is something I want to put onto the mood board. Not that
Mm,
there are heroes, but just the way that their kind of family works and the way that there is high octane intensity sort of in Bob Parr's, like going
right.
around doing all that stuff. I would love to have that tone be in the pot.
Yeah, I like that in the pot. Uh, I think I do like in my head this is I guess this is both like Beastars and BoJack, but yeah, I would like to like have a decent amount of character drama to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where we're spending episodes with characters and try and that like the plot of an episode might earnestly be about one character trying to just like share a feeling to another character.
Yeah. Do you want it to be BoJack is like earnest is maybe the wrong word, but it kind of goes to real
Very
places.
raw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But even I think there are some things that like Stranger Things has very emotional scenes, but it doesn't really feel like it cuts to the
Yeah.
same place because I'm not dealing with like my son is in the whatever
Yeah.
But do you want something like BoJack that's really dealing with like mental health and all of those other? My instinct wouldn't be that would be the thing we would thrive in, but maybe.
Yeah, my instinct is not necessarily that topic area. I guess along the B star, like to say more about B stars, like B stars has a couple like high level societal things that like some I guess people might consider like some like allegories for real stuff. Obviously within animal world, there's like often a thing that comes out like in Zootopia too about like, oh, there's like predator and prey animals. I don't even know if we want to go like into striking that thing in society, but like there are at least one or two issues that they cut that deep on. I think BoJack is like largely about mental health, maybe. So I
Mhm.
would like the idea of going deep on something in the way that BoJack does, but maybe not specifically mental health.
Okay. All right. We'll see if there's predator. Yeah, it's always hard in the animal world how you deal with the fact that some of them clearly. I mean, how BoJack deals with it is
Is
crazy.
crazy.
But yeah, I guess we'll see as the show evolves. My instinct would be that we definitely don't want the characters actually eating each other. Probably. I mean, never. I mean,
Yeah,
some of them
maybe a
maybe, but
villain or
I wouldn't want it to be that any predator is normally eating sentient. Uh,
yeah.
I mean, this kind of fucked world building element. Is there a world in which like there are humans in this world that are really stupid, and that's all the predators eat? Like similar to how we feel about animals.
I like that. I know some people get very skeeved out about about like people being eaten or whatever. So there's I like it,
I
but I'll
meant
just flag that.
more in a comic way, where it's like, this
Yeah,
human burger is really good, or whatever.
yeah,
Not in a like thinking about what it would actually be like to raise people on farms or whatever.
yeah. I
And
like that.
but just sort of humanoid things that are around the level of animal intelligence that we think of right now,
Yeah.
and that are
Do
getting
we
yeah.
do we know what kind of time period we want this to be set in? Do we want this to be a modern world that is pretty similar to ours? Do we want to specifically hit a time period? It could even be an old time period.
Yeah, it's hard. I feel like cell phones really make ruin certain things for me in terms of aesthetic. But I kind of I wouldn't be totally opposed to them. We had them in the slasher stuff. How are you feeling?
I think it's a very like nice and rich thing to make a kind of bold choice here, because then we can draw from it. Uh, for example, like if we did want to specifically say we're doing like like a Victorian animal thing, then we already know a lot of stuff that we can draw from there. Maybe that's a little too heavy-handed with the genre, but
Uh-huh.
uh, like if we set it in like 70s Hollywood or
Yeah, I think that a time period where some of our listeners, well, not that we have many listeners, but where so I think 70s and stuff like that, I don't feel like I strongly enough know the 70s in a way that some of our
yeah,
audience might. Whereas something like the Avatar style thing where it's like ambiguous time where there's there are some people with swords, but there's also certain animal engineering system where it's like, oh, the chipmunks are delivering the mail or whatever. Like, bullshit like
yeah,
that.
yeah, like pre like mass industrialization is one way to describe
Well,
that.
I would want electricity. Let's just start just go there. I actually would want electricity, and I'd want computers too. I like the idea of an animal at like a little desk job.
Yeah.
So
Let's set it in a time where we have computers and phones, but we don't have cell phones. So like
okay,
maybe let's specifically set it in like the early 2000s or the 90s
okay,
or something.
early 2000s, but not with the culture.
Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
gonna
Okay.
but just like the technolo like the
Yeah,
technological shape
2003.
of society in
Um,
2003.
cool. Yay. All right. Anything else that you definitely want to get in there in terms of world building rules?
Hmm.
Um, are so like if you're a rabbit, is your whole family rabbits?
That's a key question. Uh yeah, I kind of think so. And I think that might make things easier.
And two separate questions. Uh, can rabbit fall in love with hippo? I would say yes, for sure to
Yeah.
that. Can rabbit have child with hippo?
I'm gonna say
Or would they have
yes.
to adopt? Like, can rabbit have biological
Uh,
child with hippo, or is it more like a queer relationship where it's like they either have to adopt or get a donor, or like.
yeah. Uh, huh.
I
Yeah,
think it
well,
would kind of be cool to be the late ladder, where it's like there are these couples where
yeah.
rabbit and hippo, but they have to get some sort of hippo donor to,
Yeah.
and maybe they have one hippo
Yeah.
kid and one rabbit kid, and it's like fucked in that household. Like they're playing together, and it's like I feel like that'll leave open fun territory.
Yeah. So like playing it like aside from the anthropomorphization, like
Hmm.
relatively biologically real.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, they could be humanoid, kind of like BoJack, but I still think it would be kind of fun if, for whatever
Yeah.
reason, so maybe hippo isn't so big that it's trampling. That's the other question. Do we want the big animals to be substantially bigger than the little animals?
I think I kind of would like my base hit is to 2x like what the actual differences in reality seem to be. So like the difference between like a 99th percentile like tall person and like a first percentile tall person, double that difference and that would be the difference in animal world is my hit.
Okay, so there are like 2 feet tall people, and there are like 9 feet tall people.
Yeah,
Uh,
but still within like a plus or minus like 5 foot of human range.
okay, so giraffe is like 11 foot tall, maybe, or something like
Yeah.
that, instead of whatever a giraffe actually is in real life.
How do you want to think about like bugs or sea creatures, or that's also something we can just land on. I know a lot of like animal worlds treat bugs as like they're still bugs.
I think it's fun to have bugs. I like what BoJack does, which is like uh, similar to like almost foreign countries. Maybe is what I'm saying. That like
mm,
there are countries where like there's bug world, and there are some
uh,
bugs that live in animal world, but
right.
animals don't necessarily know that much about bug culture. Bugs
Yeah.
have a different native language than
Yeah. They can't exactly
animals
talk.
here
Yeah.
do. And they can talk. They can talk. Just that they have a different native bug language.
Right.
They
Like
maybe have a
a
slight bug
random bug and
accent.
animal can't necessarily always
Yeah.
communicate.
Um, yeah, and I think the same is true of fish. Although that's really fucked. There's a whole like, accessibility thing with fish. Maybe there aren't really any fish living in this world.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess maybe you could have like a really rich like whale or orca or dolphin that was somehow having some sort of uh, if they are they humanoid animals? Yes, they are, right? Or
Yeah.
so yeah, I think in theory, if you had some sort of special suit, maybe you could be able to attend to. You could be a fish.
It could
Um,
also be maybe that like sea creatures are pretty rare in society and we don't even need to necessarily delineate it. The ideas that we just said right now can hold that we don't want to do too much, but like, yeah, we can say that fish, yeah, there's a few whales and dolphins around.
yeah,
Uh,
and
yeah.
do
Fish
we
as aliens is a crazy concept too, but good.
with fish as aliens is awesome. Maybe is there a world in which fish is the magic? Is that just stupid?
Oh,
Um,
the sentence I love. That I don't know exactly how it would work, but it could work. I mean,
um,
fish bring a lot of different stuff.
because I mean, it's almost the water is almost like the upside down.
Yeah, right.
Of just like, wait, there's this whole world of except I guess the animals that they have technology could probably go underwater, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense now that I think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess there
No,
probably,
yeah,
if I think about it, I think there would obviously be fish society. Fish society would be able to trade with human society, and humans would be able to
mm,
go to fish as tourism. And there'd probably
mm,
be like a very expensive style of tourism where like fish could go to the human world, but it's
yeah,
very much just to like look at things
yeah,
or to do
yeah.
business.
They do their own thing. Some of the most important fish come
Yeah,
to have conversations and do deals, but just it's just too hard for fish and
yeah.
land animals to kind of cohabitate. So we
You
mostly
could be a
stay.
mafia boss, like in a tank, commanding everyone of all
Yeah.
what to do. Oh, that would be sick. I want that, the orca. Um,
That's
cool.
good.
But do we want there to be magic, and what's the source of the magic then? Maybe is one way of saying that.
Right. I kind of think I kind of think that there should be either magic or like sci-fi
Mhm.
elements. And if it's sci-fi elements, it's sci-fi elements, and we'll figure out how that technology happened. And if it's magic, I also kind of just want to figure out how it happens. Like I think that we should see it partially from the point of view of people who are also discovering magic from the for the first time, sort of harvest that a little bit, and then maybe jump to characters who know more about it to give the exposition after we sort of improvise facts about it to
Okay.
solidify them.
So start improvising, talk a little offline about being like, okay, is there any discernible pattern to what is
Or even like one way that I've been thinking about like just improv in general, maybe for these slashers, is that in any given scene, there's a bunch of little micro hits and threads that are floating out there. And a really helpful thing that you can do is in the next scene, very clearly pick one of these and say, that's exactly what that was. I see that
Mhm.
as a micro hit. I'm going to make that a macro hit. And we can treat stuff like the magic system like that.
Cool? I'm with it. Anything else you want to iron out before we dive in on our next bi-weekly? So in theory, the next episode is just going to be us doing an episode of the show.
Just
And
doing the
the
first step.
only reason that that wouldn't be the case is if Julian and I do an episode of the show and it's like god awful. Then we might really be like, oh, I don't know, this is what we should be doing. But
Yeah, but I like
um,
that plan, and I think we have a lot to work with.
yeah, it's been basically a year since you and I have improvised together. Uh,
Yeah. Yeesh.
crazy. So we'll see how it works. I'm a little rusty on this podcast improv, but
Same.
uh,
I have some ideas that I should probably share offline of how to make this. I'll say it online right here, which is if we had a system where we're both on a very quick website that I could make where we can just press buttons to indicate who's in what scene. Like just like click, okay, like it's these characters in the scene. And we're just doing this like as we introduce them as like a mental thing. And there's like a clear scene button for now we're in a new scene.
mhm.
It could be a nice visual thing for us. And then I don't know how much we're actually interested in doing anything visual for the podcast, but it could also be translated into. I know a lot of podcasts, for example, have something where it's a static background, but then you just see like who's the faces of the people that are on the podcast, and when certain people are on, their faces aren't on.
I'm super yes on the note taking. I don't want to do the logistical work of pairing video to the podcast. I will get my microphone fixed because it keeps on cutting out halfway through the episode, and I'll sound good at the beginning of the episode. And so enjoying. You're also having mic troubles, so by the next episode, I will make sure we both have mics, and that's a promise to all the people who are listening to this.
Yeah,
a few people who are listening to this who are hearing like, what? Why does this sound terrible now? We'll get that fixed out.
Cool. Should we start to wrap?
Yeah, I think that's a wrap. Do we want a title of the show, or we'll title it after the end of the first episode, or we'll?
Yeah, let's title it after the end of the first episode, but let's give it a project name, like that you would see that this actor just got cast in something
cool.
called
and we're
Project.
Starting with a car chase?
Yeah, let's start with the car chase.
All right. Woohoo! That's all that we're gonna know going into next time. And we'll get our suggestions of animals from real people. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Without further ado, this has been Muprov
Musings. So my sign off is that I found out about a new fruit very recently. Do you know about the kiwi guava?
No,
sorry, I lied. The pineapple guava.
That sounds ridiculous. I mean, kiwi pineapple, I think, is the weirdest possible option.
Kiwi
pineapple guava sounds somewhat real.
The thing is, it's not a guava exactly. It's in the same way that a pineapple is in an apple. I think it has this other name.
What the hell? That looks like a flower.
Well, it's a fruit, and I ate it. And it was delicious. And apparently there's all sorts of other style of guava. And maybe it is a guava, honestly. I couldn't tell much. But one of my students for the class I was teaching came in with a full bag of them. And apparently you can eat the skin, but people don't like to. But I did eat the skin, and it's not that bad. And it tastes like a frickin' like... Do you remember the Otter Pop?
No.
It's like a tube, an icy tube that you like. It tastes like.
Oh yeah. I just googled it. Yeah, those things. Yeah, definitely.
It honestly tastes really delicious, and I like that fruit. And and look. If I call that a fruit, I'm also just going to call it a vegetable, because this has been one of the turns in my life recently, which is that I like the pineapple guava. That's great. But what I actually like, and what I've actually been pursuing on a bi-weekly basis, and that's the more common version, is eggplant. I've been getting super into eggplant.
Oh, yeah. I just like eggplant? Yeah. Well, I just have the memory of John making this really good like fried eggplant sandwich.
Oh, I'm sure that's, yeah.
And it didn't look that hard. He cut them into strips. I don't remember if he breaded them or what, or whether he just cut them into strips and put them in the oven, but like thin strips, and then like crisped them. Really good. Oh, I just learned that this is in the vein. I never knew how to cut a mango, but I really love the taste of mango. But I was like, these are so impractical to eat. I was just always battling with it. I would like skin it and be biting it and be all stringy and gross. And I just looked up some videos of like how to do the thing. Do you know how to do the thing?
No.
All right. Take a mango. It's got like this thin, wide pit. So you cut off one side of the mango and you cut off the other side of the mango, but you avoid the pit. And then you have these sort of mango halves, and you make a grid of slices on them. And they go all the way to the skin, but not through the skin. And then, this is the crazy part, you take a glass or a cup with a thin rim, and you tuck the cup into the edge of the skin, like a line of the skin, and you scoop out the grid.
Oh. It's just chunks.
And it just gets you mango chunks. And it sounds like a lot of work for a little reward or whatever, but mango has become my favorite fruit. It displaced blueberry. It's awesome. I even got to the point I was eating too many mangoes for a little bit, and now I'm walking it back. But when I learned how to do that, I was like, I went crazy. There was like a couple of weeks where I was eating a mango every day.
Yeah. Are you the type, do you like to like put anything on your mango? Like, would you ever like put like a chili powder on your mango or?
Not chili powder. I mean, I really like everything mango now. So like mango sticky rice is maybe the very big classic, really tasty thing. And there are a lot of mango desserts.
One of my favorite desserts is a mango dessert. I'm gonna send it in the chat, and you can Google at home mango melona. It's these like popsicles that are mango flavored that are like, the issue with popsicles sometimes is that they're not that creamy, but these popsicles are kind of creamy and they're mango, and they're one of the better desserts out there. And I'm looking at one of the pictures that is on one of the popsicles, and I see the gridded up mango in the way that you're describing.
Okay, I'm gonna go get my other favorite mango dessert. You can see it right here on the podcast. I think it's mango. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's mango. Sainsbury, if you're in London, has these delicious mango mochi that don't have any dairy in them. It's good for lactose intolerant. I'm gonna go right now to the fridge and make sure that they are mango, or the freezer, because I just walked by Sainsbury.
Things are rearranging. Can't you see me now? Can't you see me now? Everything is changing. Can't you see me now? Can't you see me now?